Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye arahati samya samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye arahati samya sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng. Today is Sunday, June 4th, here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, Australia. And it is Saturday, June 3rd, back in California. And we're about to launch into the Flower Garland Sutra, the chapter on Sudana's pilgrimage called Ru Fa Jieping, entering the Dharma realm. So please join in with us to investigate how one young man full of blessings goes from ordinary adolescent to Buddhahood in a single lifetime. Let's continue with our invocation, and what we have to do, hold on here, there we go. We're going to request spiritual presence, and we do that musically. Namo Tafang Guangfu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai O Pusa Namo Tafang Guangfu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai O Pusa It's the Steinway piano of guitars. You have to kind of stretch your vocal range to accommodate it. Let's say here in the Gold Coast, as we acknowledge country, that the Kombumeri people of the Ugambe language group practiced spiritual connections to land and to all creation. I have made it too big. I gotta fit it in there. Practice spiritual connections to land and all creation in this location for tens of thousands of years. So today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and the original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 我们就说，空不昧于人在他们祖先的土地上修炼着他们与土地和万物的精神联系，已有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这个土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事的人，把传统的智慧传下去给下一代，并且向他们过去、现在和新兴的长老们表示敬意，以及主权从未破格让所有的第一原住民人民们表示敬意。We do indeed, and we want to let the bell sound be heard. Here we go. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sound that everywhere fills the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内佛法，扬万亿国中，共训起法界和平，利益报他脑后的。Oh, all right. So we are entering the Dharma realm chapter. This is the chapter 39 out of 40. It's the end of the sutra, and we've reached a chapter break, the way the original Chinese was laid out, or at least our edition of that text was laid out. So what has happened is the Buddha has arrived in the Jada Grove. He's announced that he's going to speak Dharma. That news was well received around the Dharma realm, and bodhisattvas from 10 worlds came flying in. They landed, they made offerings to the Buddha and to their seniors, to those whom they wanted to honor. They sat in 10 directions, and then one by one they took turns coming up to praise the Buddha. And they did it with palms together, one knee on the ground, just the way we did our Dharma request just now. They, from the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, to the intermediate directions, and above and below, bodhisattva leaders from each of those directions praised the Buddha. And they did so in a variety of ways. To say they praised the Buddha is not entirely accurate. They praised the Sangha, they praised the Dharma, they praised wisdom, they praised the Buddha's psychic powers, just a whole variety of spoken word poetry that they chanted. And so that's come to an end now. We're done with that part. And the focus turns. If this were a movie or a documentary or live streaming, imagine live streaming the Buddhist Dharma Assembly. If this were a live stream of the Buddhist Dharma Assembly, the spotlight changes now to Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. He is one of the two major bodhisattvas that the Buddha turns to in the Avatamsaka Sutra. He and Manjushri Bodhisattva share these jobs regularly throughout the whole sutra. And Samantabhadra, who is called the foremost in practice. If you want to know how to cultivate, this is your expert. He's the one who will fill you in and support you. There is another sutra that bears his name. It's actually a piece of the Lotus Sutra. And Samantabhadra Bodhisattva lets it be known that if you make a vow in order to cultivate, let's say, for example, you want to memorize a sutra, you want to carry on the Dharma and be a Dharma speaker, should you try to memorize it but then forget pieces of it, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's vows include his promise to come up behind you and whisper in your ear the pieces you forgot. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's really he's a good friend. So he wants us to pick up these practices and build our lives around them. So that's Samantabhadra. Now we're calling him universal goodness. We used to say universally worthy, universal worthy bodhisattva, but a worthy is not a kind of an adjective noun that we are familiar with. So we say he's universal goodness. He is good, all good, everywhere good bodhisattva. So that's, he comes forward, and in the Avatamsaka, the Buddha doesn't speak it, interestingly, doesn't speak it directly. He deputizes, he assigns other spokespeople, different bodhisattvas throughout the sutra, including parts of it spoken by gods. So devas can do some of the work of presenting the Avatamsaka teachings. Interesting, huh? You think, well, it's a Buddhist sutra, but he trusts that Dharma the energy can flow through different speakers. So in this case, Samantabhadra comes forward. Pu Xian Pusa. The Japanese call him Fugen Bosatsu. So he's our speaker. And today's topic is fascinating because it's about the process of speaking Dharma itself. And when we say speak Dharma, that's Chinglish, isn't it? It's 说法 in Chinese. 说法, speak Dharma, speaking Dharma. What it means, if we were just starting from English, from scratch, we'd probably say explaining principle or instructing on wisdom or something like that. We probably wouldn't say speak Dharma. 讲经 lecture sutras speak Dharma. That's 讲经说法, we say. We early on translated that as pure Chinglish. Lecture sutras speak Dharma. So that's our Buddhist jargon language for this process of coming up with truths and with practices and instructions that they were true in the past, they're true in the present, they'll be true in the future. They help us wake up. These are the methods, the techniques. That's what it means. So today's section is all about Samantabhadra telling us how to shuofa, how to speak Dharma. Okay? Does that interest anybody? Yeah, if we want to hear something more than just, the popcorn sounds of news reports or entertainment noise, right? The kind of stuff that surrounds us in the air. Well, Dharma is different. Dharma is, when we hear it, our lives can change. So, for the good, indeed. All right, so here is, okay, I'm going to close that, and we keep this, keeps that. Here we go. So this is let's do the title, 大方广佛华严经入法界品第39之二, the Avatamsaka Sutra, chapter 39, entering the Dharma realm, section 2. Here it is. Okay, you're welcome to join me if you care to. Put your palms together if you like. You can read the Chinese characters, you can read the Romanized syllables underneath, or if you can do the Goyin Zimu on the side of each character, there's another syllable system. There we go. Here we are. 二是普贤菩萨摩诃萨普观一切菩萨众会以等法界方便等虚空界方便等众生界方便等三世等一切劫等一切众生业等一切众生欲等一切众生解等一切众生根等一切众生成熟时等一切法光影方便为诸菩萨以10种法具开发显示照明言说此10子平生三昧 Okay? At that time, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Samantabhadra contemplated all of the Bodhisattvas' assemblies everywhere. He employed skillful means as vast as the Dharma realm, skillful means as vast as the realm of space, skillful means as vast as the realm of beings, skillful means as vast as the 3 periods of time, as vast as all eons, as vast as beings' karma, as vast as all beings' delights, as vast as all beings' understandings, as vast as all beings' sense faculties, as vast as all beings' periods of maturation, and skillful means in Dharma as insubstantial as light and shadow. And then, for the sake of the Bodhisattvas, he employed 10 types of Dharma phrases to reveal, manifest, illumine, and teach the charging lion samadhi. Oh boy. Got it. Yeah, wow, what an intro, huh? So, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva steps forward. I guess he probably doesn't. I think being who he is, he can probably keep his seat, sitting in full lotus there. And he looks around, everywhere, all directions. He sees who's here. And then he employs 10 kinds of fangbian, skillful means. What is that talking about? It means that Samantabhadra knows who's there, and he knows how to connect with them. So he does it. He uses techniques of communication. He is a master communicator. And that's what a skillful means is. And we have 10 as vast as, right? As vast as, as vast as. In Chinese it was dang, dang yi qie, right? Dang, this and that. It means big. He employed a big communication strategy. How big? As big as the Dharma realm, as big as space, as big as beings. How big is that? You know, start with the microbes and go all the way to the whales. 3 periods of time. So filling space, filling time. That's how big. All eons of time. How big? As big as karma. As big as delights in the minds of beings. As big as everybody's understandings. All the realms of their sense faculties. All the time it takes for a living being to go from the hells all the way to Buddhahood. And then this last one is so poetic, right? Skillful means in Dharma, just like light and shadow. Think about that. What is that? It's just, in other words, you're not forced to understand. You're not forced to accept it. You're not forced to swallow it. It's just like light and shadow, which is, on one hand, you could say everything, right? Without light, we're in the dark. We're totally stumbling around. So light is everywhere, but is it a burden? It's not. These skillful means that Samantabhadra Bodhisattva is using are just so artful and skillful. They're just so beautifully done that the way light nurtures, when you step into the sunlight out of the cold, it's just, you feel, there, I'm warm again, right? That's how pervasive and how welcome it is, and yet it's effortless and just so light. That's the beauty of the Dharma. No forcing. You're not forced to accept it. You reach for it the way when you've been shivering, you step into the sunlight and go, right? I really like that last line. And then, with all of those communication skills, for the sake of the Bodhisattvas, he employs 10 kinds of explanations to reveal, manifest, illumine, and teach a samadhi. What's a samadhi? This one is called the charging lion samadhi. Okay, do we need to unpack that a bit? I think so. So all of that skill, all of those special communication tools, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva wants us and everybody to understand the Shizi Pinshan Samme, the charging lion samadhi. We used to call it the lion's sprint samadhi. Lions are great for short distance. They charge. They're not long distance hunters. Lions don't do the 5,000 meters. They do the 100-meter dash. So sprinting lion in those 100 meters, they're called the king of beasts for a reason. There's a reason why lions are the king of the jungle, because that much feline, that much cat energy chasing you, you'll be caught and overpowered, right? And the lion swipes with those paws, you're down. So pretty strong, pretty irresistible. And I've read another translation for the same samadhi called the lion's invigoration samadhi. Not sprinting, not charging, but invigorating. So lions are vigorous until it's time to sleep, and then cats, they sleep most of the day. If you've ever lived around cats, you know how much time they are taking a cat nap, a lot of time. But when they're up there charging, sprinting, and invigorating, they are unstoppable. And you don't dissuade the lion. You don't change the lion's mind once he launches into his charge. So that's so interesting that we'd have a samadhi, which is this sublime spiritual experience, right? Named after a charging lion. Of all the things that this samadhi could be named, that's probably not in the top 100 on your list. What would you call this samadhi? Charging lion samadhi. Oh, okay. So I really like that because I'm giving you my preference as I'm unbiased. I totally love this stuff. This is great because why? Here's the Buddha stepping into the world of nature to borrow a phenomenon of nature that is really clear. This is not mushy. This is not ambiguous, right? Charging lion, straight ahead, boom. The only thing you don't want to be in the time of charging lions is a zebra, as they say here in Australia. You don't want to be a zebra in the way of the charging lion, because he's going to knock you down and take you off to dinner. You will be on the menu, and you won't be on the table, you'll be on the menu. So charging lion, out of nature, the Buddha says, here's an image I want you to understand. I want you to get this image. Here is the king of beasts, roaring and rushing and accomplishing its goal. So what is that about? Think about it. The Buddha's project was putting an end to the most powerful aspect of life, which is death. Death comes for us, and we have nothing to say. That's it, right? Except the Buddha had something to say. The Buddha said, no, I'm going to choose when I leave, and I'm going to call it nirvana, not samsara. It's not just one more blip inside of the continuity of suffering. I'm going to put an end to suffering entirely. So, with that as the goal, not a zebra on the plains of Africa or India, mortality, birth and death is the goal, and you need to be vigorous in order to overcome it. You have to really go cultivate. You have to put your effort into practice in order to accomplish that goal. Now, before we get there, certainly there's lots of benefits to meditation. There's lots of benefits to samadhi, peace of mind, the knowing your own habit patterns so that you're not caught by surprise by emotion, for example, when it comes time to talk to your boss about adjusting your salary upwards. When it comes time to deal with your kids, your teenagers, who, there's that phase. I remember there was a period in my life when every time I talked to my parents, I got an expression on my face. There was a tone, the teenager's tone. Yeah, no, stupid. Mom, there's that expression, that kind of, how do you call it? Disdain. The teenager's disdain for everything adult, right? So there's all kinds of reasons why, but in the midst of that kind of, can you as an adult come face to face, toe to toe with your teenager and explain to them why they have to do it the way you say and not get angry? Can you do that? Oh my, you need invigoration. You need the charging lion's samadhi in order to go face to face with your teenagers and not get angry. Of course, if you get angry, you've lost. You're done. Do it because I say so. Because I'm older than you are, bigger. As soon as you have to pull out the I'm older than you are and you have to obey me card, you have lost. It's only you're stronger, right? You're the authority. So how hard is that? And yet, if we have the charging lion's samadhi to cultivate meditation, our samadhi can endure. We can say, okay, well, you don't have to like me, but you do have to do what I say because we can't both be in charge. Ultimately, I'm responsible. So somebody has to lead. In this case, it's me. When you're as big as me, you can lead. Or if you have wisdom, tell me why you don't want to do what I'm telling you to do. If you can respond with that kind of clarity and equanimity, oh my goodness, you have real samadhi. It's hard. Even to the point where spouses know how to press each other's buttons, don't they? You know how to get that look on your face? Just that kind of, I'm enduring, when your hubby says something, and oh my, that's the button that will get under their skin and irritate them, so you put that expression on your face. Ooh. If when you see that expression, you don't react, you have samadhi. That's the use of samadhi. So here is Samantabhadra talking about the benefits of the charging lion samadhi. And he's going to tell us in 10 Dharma phrases. So the next passage that we're going to look at right now is 10 ways to explain to us how to approach this state of equanimity and the state of patience and this state of infinite wells of kindness and compassion. So you're not, doesn't press your button, doesn't trigger you, doesn't light your fuse. Teach on, Samantabhadra, because I need to know that. How do I stay calm in the midst of provocation? Here we go. 何等为实所谓演说能示现等法界一切佛刹微尘中，诸佛出性次第，诸刹成坏次第法具。Do one by one. Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to make appear from within a particle of dust the sequential appearances of Buddhas in the world, and to manifest successive formations and destructions of kshetras, Buddha lands, in numbers as vast as Buddha kshetras, equal in measure to the Dharma realm. Oh, all right. So I had to check the commentary on this one, and he says this is the Avatamsaka state where from within the smallest comes the largest, and into the smallest, the largest fits. And from the few come the many, and the many return to the one. Okay, this is the state, this is the Avatamsaka state that is clear, that's appearing in this samadhi. So, okay, understand this is an Avatamsaka state, not simple. All right? So, from the small to the big, they interpenetrate without obstruction. From the one to the many, they cross boundaries and don't gum up each other. Okay? What else? 演说能实现等虚空界一切佛刹中，尽未来劫赞叹如来功德因生法具。Dharma phrases that speak his ability to make appear in number as vast as Buddha kshetras in the realm of space, sounds, praising thus come one's virtues to the ends of future eons. Okay, the word kshetra, land, Buddha land. Like, think of the Pure Land, Amitabha's Pure Land, that's a Buddha kshetra. Okay, Buddha land. So what are these? There are 10 fa, ju, Dharma phrases. These, in other words, what Samantabhadra is explaining is how to say the right words that then explain these incredible Avatamsaka miracles, right? So he's explaining 10 phrases that then explain to us these things he wants to share, coming out of the lion, the charging lion samadhi, all right? So all of these will be Dharma phrases that explain. Instead of speak, it should be explain, that explain the Buddha's ability to do these things, okay? 好，听得懂法师. Okay, number 3, here we go, right here, right there, all right. 演说能示现等虚空界一切佛刹中，如来出世无量无边成正觉门法具. Dharma phrases that explain his ability to make appear in space the measureless and boundless methods in number as vast as Buddha lands, by which all Tathagatas who appear in the world accomplish right awakening. All right. So, boy, this is a challenge to translate. Everybody want to take a little side trip here? Here's, in translation, there's something called the head word technique. So you take the head word, in this case it's fa ju, Dharma phrases, and then you pile up the modifiers. Okay, what kind of Dharma phrases? Cheng, zheng, jue, man, accomplish right enlightenment gateways, Dharma phrases. Okay, what kind of accomplishing right enlightenment gateways? Boundless, measureless, boundless, accomplishing right awakening Dharma gateways, Dharma phrases. So far so good. Now we have to modify that with Rulai, Tathagata. What kind? Okay, Iche for Cha Zhong, within all Buddha lands, Tathagatas. What kind? Equal to empty space in number, Buddha lands, Tathagatas. And verb, here's finally we get the verb at the start. Speaking, ability to make appear, equal to empty space, Buddha lands, numbers of Tathagatas, accomplishing limitless, boundless, right awakening gateways, Dharma phrase. Wow. Okay. So this is the experience of bringing the sutra to life in the West, which is seeing how originally it was probably, first of all, it was the vision of the Buddha as he brought out from his nature these principles. Then he explained them, and they were first written down in Sanskrit. So the Sanskrit language shaped a lot of how we accomplish, how we understand what's going on. The Chinese took the Sanskrit, put it into Chinese characters, so Chinese grammar, Chinese syntax shaped the Sanskrit. Now it comes to us in English, and we want to bring it out from the page into the air, into our minds, into our conceptual frameworks, so we can say, I kind of see, think what's going on here, sort of. And it's amazing. It is the phrase that comes up over and over is 不可思议, goes beyond my ability to think of it. And yet, I can still picture it here happening in space before me, right? So if you're willing to do that, if your mind, for me, every time I hear these visions, I come away feeling like part of my mind has been fed, has been nourished by something. What part is it? Is it your imagination, sort of? Is it your conscience, sort of? I think if I had to put my life on it, I would say it's your fa shen hui ming, your Dharma body and your wisdom life that each of us has that gets nourished by the Dharma. If I had to say what is that, I would say your spiritual life, your spiritual well-being, whatever that might be, how you conceive of it, that's when I hear these ideas, I go, no, I have never seen it, but my mind wants to connect with it because it sounds marvelous. And I can really put myself closer to a realm where this is absolutely real, happening in front of me. And I can witness it and at some point, take part in it as a participant in what's happening in the Dharma realm. Why not? If it's not us, who is it who actually approaches these marvels, right? So anyway, that's one way to think about it. Here we go. Got another one coming up. This is number 4. We've had 3 of them so far. Able to explain, able to explain, able to explain. Number 4, number 4. Number 5, there are Ishan. Okay, so we'll just go ahead. Number 4, Dao Chang, right here. All right, here we go. 演说能实现等虚空界一切佛刹中，佛座 there we go 佛座 another word 佛座道场菩萨众会法具
Sure.
Okay, are we good? Here we are. Okay. Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to make appear within the realm of space the Buddhas sitting in their Bodhimandas and their Bodhisattva assemblies in number as vast as Buddha kshetras. Okay, if there's any what's the word? Is it a meme? M-E-M-E, a meme? A meme? Is there an icon or a motif? That's the word I want. A motif. M-O-T-I-F. If there's any motif that appears over and over again, no matter whether it's a Theravada Sutta coming out of Pali or a Sanskrit or a Mahayana Sutra coming out of Sanskrit, there is this image of the Buddha sitting surrounded by his audience. And you see artists who make it, we frequently see in Sri Lankan Theravada children's Dharma books, there'll be the Buddha sitting there and looking very wise, and his seat is a little higher. Maybe it's a pile of grass, a bigger pile of grass, and then under the trees on the grass are his monks sitting in rows listening. Sometimes they're lined up militarily, line to line. Sometimes they're in a circle, all facing the Buddha and listening to him speak. So that image happens all the time through all Buddhist literature. When you get to the Mahayana, here in the Avatamsaka, look at this. He makes appear in space Buddhas sitting in their monasteries, in their bodhimandas, their way places, their places of awakening, and bodhisattvas gathered around them in number as vast as Buddha lands. So this is happening right there in space. And the Buddha, Samantabhadra, says, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to explain it. So it's 法句, Dharma phrases, how to make you get it. This is all about communicating something that is inconceivable, right? And he's going to say it. He's going to say it so we get it. All right? Number 5. Here we go, right here. 演说于一毛孔中念念出现等三世一切佛变化身充满法界法句 Dharma phrases that explain how in all his skin pores, in thought after thought, he manifests in number equal to all the transformation bodies of the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time that fill up the Dharma realm. Okay. Skin pores, why? Small. Right? How many are there? Some people say 84,000. How many pores, skin pores do you have? How fine is your skin? In thought after thought, in each of those tiny, tiny places, transformation bodies of Buddhas fill up the Dharma realm from the past, present, and future. So big appears in the small. Okay? And he's going to explain it. Dharma phrases that explain that. I want to hear it. Next. 演说能令一生充满十方一切刹海平等显现法句
Also, the screen still not been shared.
Not sharing? Oh. There we go. Thanks. Okay. Dharma phrases, there we go. Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to manifest everywhere, a body that fills up all the oceans of kshetras of the 10 directions. Okay, so take a look here. Let's do the headword technique. 法句, Dharma phrases. 显现, 平等显现, equally appearing Dharma phrases. 充满十方一切刹海, all oceans of Buddha lands, equally appearing Dharma phrases. 10 directions, Buddha lands, oceans, equally appearing Dharma phrases, filling up 10 directions, all Buddha lands, oceans, equally appearing Dharma phrases, making one body, a single body, fill up all 10 directions, oceans of Buddha lands, equally manifesting Dharma phrases. So it's like, yeah, that's the headword technique. You keep stacking up those modifiers. Dharma phrases that speak as his ability to make appear everywhere a body, one body, that fills up oceans of kshetras of the 10 directions. All right. Does that, everybody follow? It's like, whoa. Samantabhadra says, the Buddha is going to explain the Dharma. He's going to explain the Dharma in ways that make miracles appear before your eyes. That's what a good communicator he is. Okay? Another one? We got, what, 3 more? 1, 2... Yeah, got a few more to go. Okay, here we go. 演说能令一切诸境界中普现三世诸佛神变法句 Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to manifest within all states the spiritual transformations of the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. Spiritual transformations, 神变. Next one. 演说能令一切佛刹微尘中普现三世一切佛刹微尘数佛种种身变经无量劫法句 Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to universally manifest within Buddha kshetras like dust particles the various spiritual transformations of the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time which are again as numerous as Buddha-kshetras like dust particles, and all of these prevailing from measureless eons. All right, so what do we say about these? Again, Dharma phrases that explain his ability to do what? To appear, to make appear in Buddha lands as numerous as dust particles, the spiritual transformations of Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. So let's pause that one. He's going to show us Buddhas making their bodies big, small, able to pass through solid rock as if it were air, able to walk on air as if it were solid rock, the ability to reach up and touch the sun and moon, the ability to send fire out the top of the body and water out the bottom of the body, and fire out the bottom of the body and water out the top. These are the 18 transformations of an arhat, which indicates what? Mastery over the elements. Size, fire, water, solidity, permeability, those are basic. But further, the ability to make the big and the small interpenetrate, the ability to create a state like Indra's net, where in one you see all, and all are gathered back into one, right? These are all the things that, when you say them like this, just kind of out of the blue, it sounds like fantasy. When you follow step-by-step progress of cultivation, you realize this is all part of the awakened mind. You have this ability, I have this ability. But here, Samantabhadra is not, you don't want to say showing off, he's demonstrating the scope of this ability so that, so that we'll be interested and we'll want to cultivate it ourselves. So, he can make appear in space the spiritual transformations of the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. He then tweaks it further, which are again as numerous as Buddha lands like dust particles. And he can do that for measureless eons of time. So, playing with time and space, and yet demonstrating that this all comes from the awakened mind of the Buddha. More. Ready? 演说能令一切毛孔出生三世一切诸佛大愿海因尽未来劫开发化导一切菩萨法具. Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to produce within every skin pore the sounds of the oceans of great vows of Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, exhausting the realms of the future, revealing the transformations and guidance of all bodhisattvas. Okay, look at this one. He explains the ability to, within the tiniest of places, make the sounds of an ocean of vows of Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. Vows that go to the future and that show how Buddhas appear to teach and to guide. So, when I was just a boy, my dad took the family to Montreal for the World's Fair called Exposition, l'Expo à Montréal. Bienvenue à l'Expo. It was so exciting because the whole world, this is the time when World's Fairs were a big deal. And Montreal did a beautiful job of welcoming people to Canada, to the La Belle Province de Québec, the beautiful province of Quebec, and to Montreal. And my cousin Grant was hired, as were many of the young boys, bilingual young men, to volunteer to serve at in the various pavilions at the World's Fair. And Grant's job was to welcome people to a ride called La Spirale, the Spiral, and it was a carnival ride and great fun. Bienvenue à la Spirale, venez à la Spirale. Come and to take a ride on the spiral. So one of the things that impressed me the most was the Pavilion of Ontario. A place to stand and a place to grow. This mighty land, Ontario, Ontario. Look it up on YouTube, it's still there. So the Ontario put their money into technology, and this was before the days of personal computers. And the one of the most wonderful things they had was there were two. One was kiosks, which is a pillar holding up their beautiful pavilion, and the entire circumference of the pillar was a video screen. And so there were movies playing 360 around this pillar, and it was a living pillar. And then further, every half hour they played their promotional video for the province of Ontario, and it was a multi-screen presentation, so that instead of being one picture on the big, it was a wraparound screen, kind of like a Ultra Max, a big Max screen. The screen divided into segments, so one would turn and then it would merge with another one, and the picture was small in a corner, and then it would spread across and it was the whole screen. Then it would be 50 screens, and then it would join, and a computerized video screen. Quite marvelous. I mean, even if you think of it now, it was pretty forward-looking. And so on the screen, you could be telling multiple stories at once that were not confusing. They were part of the story, moving it forward, and it would do an S snake down the screen as the picture would move through various frames. And it was quite wonderful. And why am I remembering the Canadian World's Fair, the expo at Montreal? It's because when Sudana, our pilgrim, at the successful completion of his pilgrimage, Maitreya Bodhisattva welcomes him into Vairochana's adorned pavilion. Pilujana Bao, how does it go? Zhuangyan, Bao Yan Loga. Pilujana Bao Zhang Loga. Yeah, the treasury of jewels. Bao Zhang Loga. So when Sudana enters in to this wonderful pagoda, he sees in every single adorned feature of the decorations inside the pagoda, he sees a scene, a video of Maitreya Bodhisattva's past lives in cultivation. Something wonderful that Maitreya did in such a life and such a world when he gave up his body to feed a hungry tiger, or he cut off a piece of flesh to feed a mother hawk whose 3 little hawklets didn't have any food. So he made these huge sacrifices on behalf of other living beings, and in each of these decorations is a little video of when Maitreya Bodhisattva did that thing. And furthermore, Sudana sees himself bowing to Maitreya in every lifetime, paying his respects to Maitreya. And this is happening on all sides of him inside Vairochana's pavilion. It's all happening simultaneously, and no matter how old, whether it was past, whether it's present, or it's to come, Sudana is able now, with his new consciousness, to see all of this at once. So his new Buddha's wisdom is able to take in events of the past, the present, and to come, and see himself engaged. He sees the interconnection. So when I read that, I thought, oh, that's the Ontario Pavilion at the Canadian World's Fair in Montreal. Yeah, wow, that was really progressive at the time, wasn't it? They didn't know that they were describing the awakened mind from the Avatamsaka Sutra. So when I see today's description, the ability to produce the sounds of the ocean of great vows of Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, going all the way to the end of the future, and those vows show how bodhisattvas are going to guide and bring us forward, right? It's like, oh, yeah, it's like those kiosks with all of the pictures happening 360 all the time. So, yeah, I was just a lad at the time, and it made a big impression on me. So, okay, more to come. Here we go. 演说能令佛狮子座良同法界菩萨众会道场庄严等无差别尽未来劫转于种种微妙法论法句 Dharma phrases that speak of his ability to cause the Buddha's lion's throne to be the same in measure as the Dharma realm, and to cause the Bodhimanda of the Bodhisattva's assemblies to be uniformly adorned, without any differences, prevailing to the realm of the future, turning various wondrous and fine Dharma wheels. Alrighty. Same pattern, but this time much expanded. This is number 10 out of 10, so you can see it's way out there, right? Dharma phrases that explain how he can, ready? Make the lion's throne, the Buddha's seat, to be as big as the Dharma realm, and to make the monasteries, the temples, the viharas, the backyards, the city parks, wherever the Bodhimandas are, under a tree of the Bodhisattva's assemblies, to all look uniformly magnificent, no difference, so that this is true to the end of the future, and there, wherever they are, the Bodhisattvas turn wondrous and fine Dharma wheels. Cool. Concluding sentence, ready? 佛子此时为首，又不可说，佛刹为陈述法句，皆是如来智慧境界。Disciples of the Buddha, those are the 10 primary Dharma phrases. There are ineffably many Dharma phrases. Their numbers equal to dust particles in Buddha lands. They are the states of wisdom of the thus come ones. So, okay, well done. So there are many, many, many Dharma phrases that, if you want to count them, you'd have to know how many dust particles are there in a land. So you could say, never mind a land, just my living room is full of dust particles. I haven't swept in a week. Yeah, so count up all those dust particles. How many dust particles in a mound, in a mountain? How many dust particles in the Mojave Desert? How many dust particles are there in the outback? So count them up. Then you have that many phrases explaining Buddha's incredible abilities. And those are the states of wisdom of the Buddhas. Okay. Well, so we've got, what is it? It's the Buddha's going to speak Dharma. The Buddha's going to explain wisdom. He's going to teach. The Buddha's about to teach. And Samantabhadra is getting us ready, kind of softening us up so that we can hear and retain more. You just wonder, how we get softened up. If I was going to the Buddhist Dharma assembly, one of the first things I would do, I would be sure that my phone is charged so that I can tap on my recorder app and record everything he says. And if I didn't have my phone and I didn't have a recorder app, I would reach for my MP3 recorder, make sure that I had the right number of batteries and a couple backups. And, if I were video recording him, I would make sure I had plenty of SD cards and lots of camera batteries, right? I would depend upon silicon-based memory that had a chip in it, and circuits, microcircuits, transistors, semiconductors. I wouldn't want to miss a word. these bodhisattvas don't have silicon-based recorders. They have hydrocarbon, human cell-based recorders. And they too don't want to miss a single word. And how funny that we get used to the facility, the idea that I would have a tape recorder in my phone that would be very handy and good microphones, so the Buddha's words would be totally rememberable. I could, download them as an MP3 file, send them off to a transcribing program, and have it, transcribed and spell checked and saved onto my hard drive before I'm done. The bodhisattvas don't look outside their own apparatus for another one, duplicated in silicon. They have it in their own system. And in so few short years, we've gotten used to recording it externally. That is, to think somehow we could remember what the Buddha said. Different world, huh? So this is all about Dharma phrases, and 10 of them. Let's go back and take a look at how it began. So, for the sake of the bodhisattvas, Samantabhadra used 10 types of Dharma phrases to show, make appear, to light up, and to teach the charging lion samadhi. Because with this charging lion samadhi, as we mentioned, here we go. Oops, I didn't share my screen again. I got in the bad habit of forgetting to share my screen. There we go. It was right there. 10 types of Dharma phrases to reveal, meaning open it up, to manifest it, to make it appear, to light it up, and then to teach us this samadhi. A lot of benefits in learning that samadhi. And then we heard about it. So, the idea of speaking Dharma, okay, 说法, we said that's Chinglish. What would it be? The explaining principle, teaching wisdom. That's what it is. My first experience with this in a Dharma context was in Japan. On Saturdays, the Zen master, whose name was Uchiyama Roshi, he was a great Dharma speaker. He loved it. He was so good at communicating, and he was effortless. He was a skinny-looking. Let's see if I've got Uchiyama Roshi. Uchiyama Kosho. There he is. There's that famous photo of him with Uchiyama Kosho. Let's see here. It popped up right there and then it went away. See, we get that. And there's a famous picture, his books that he wrote. I'll type it here so you can all see. Uchiyama. There he is. Yeah, this is the way he looked. When he was speaking Dharma, Uchiyama Roshi looked like that. He's got a teacup here. He was a smiling presence, and sometimes very stern, like that. But obviously a cultivated, wise man. Here he is in the streets of Kyoto. His teacher, Sawaki Roshi, was unsmiling, was very severe gentleman, and Uchiyama Roshi was a smiling monk. There are the two of them together. 2 generations. Down from Dogen at Eiheiji Monastery. So, there we are. That's the picture we want. Okay, now, that was, as I said, my first impression of speaking Dharma speaking. And very traditional, the monk on a higher seat, everybody gathered around. And because Uchiyama, he was one of Japan's most celebrated origami paper folders. He learned it from his father. And in their family, they took big pieces of paper and folded them into wonderful things. And Uchiyama Roshi folded one piece of paper into a Buddha, and he had 5 robes, 5 layers of robes, no cuts, no scissors. He just folded it. And here was the Buddha standing, just amazing what he could do with paper. But he clearly enjoyed speaking the Dharma. And my Japanese was just very raw, very beginning Japanese at the time, so I didn't understand much of what he said, but I was fed without being able to understand the meaning, just being there in his presence, with watching him light up as he opened up the Shobogenzo, the Zhengfa Yandang of Dogen to explain what she was explaining at the time, or just to speak general principles. He explained the precepts, and I was there for the ordination of one of my Japanese monk friends, and I remember the phrase that kept being repeated over and over again. Uchiyama Roshi would say, "Nan dachi yoku tamotsu nai naya," which is what? 就是优婆塞优婆夷戒如等金星寿能持否. We say it in Chinese. This is the precept for upasakas and upasikas. Can you hold it to the end of your life? Nan dachi yoku tamotsu nai naya, he would say. And the preceptees would go, yoku tamotsu nang chi. Yes, I can hold it. I can do a good job of holding it. I remember hearing that music. Nan dachi yoku tamotsu nai naya, yoku tamotsu nang chi. Can you hold this precept? And yes, I can uphold it, they would say. This formula went on. My unskillful ears just picked up on the music of that. Later I had to ask, what was that all about? Oh, that was asking about the precepts. Okay. So anyway, to see the speaker of Dharma and the audience gathered around, which in this case was monks, real Japanese monks at the time, from the Soto tradition, Eiheiji line, and we who were, just beginning students, Westerners, welcomed in because Uchiyama he didn't mind the hassle and the mess of trying to teach Westerners. There were other monks in Kyoto who said, no, absolutely not. We don't want Westerners, just bring confusion and trouble, too much work to try to teach non-Japanese students of Dharma. But Uchiyama Roshi was very kind, and as a result, his students now are around the Zen world. But his teachings were not the way Master Hua approached the Dharma, which was, Shifu said, Master Hua made vows when he was a young man back in Manchuria that he was going to bring the Buddha's Tripitaka, the sutras, the shastras, and the commentary, the Vinaya texts, to the West to translate into all the world's languages. Master Hua said, how funny it is that the believers of the Bible, the people of the book, have the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's this thick. You can put it into covers this thick. And yet you can find it in every hotel room around the world. You open the drawer and there's the Gideon Bible in the local language. He said, what a good job they have done propagating the teachings of Jesus and the Hebrew scriptures. He said, tell me which hotel room in the world do you open the drawer and find the Lotus Sutra or the Diamond Sutra, or the Shurangama Sutra? None. He said, that's our fault. That is sloppiness, that is lack of effort on the part of the Buddhists. We have to set that right, he said. The sutras of the Buddha contain so much wisdom, so much marvelous, incredible, soul-edifying nutrition for your wisdom and compassion, and yet nobody knows. He said, that's our fault. I'm going to see to it that we translate those sutras and then distribute them. So he did, and every night, 7:30, it's time for the sutra lecture, 90 minutes. And then we would translate it as we went, and the next night, another sutra lecture. Saturdays, twice. Sundays, twice. So Master Hua really meant it when he said, I want to translate and distribute the Buddha's wisdom around the world. So all those, he did that for 30 years without fail. And as a result, Buddhist Text Translation Society, BuddhistTexts.org, 2 T's, BuddhistText.org, is where you go to find the currently available titles on Master Hua's project of translating, explaining and translating the sutras. We have been able to, thanks to the vows of Shifu's disciples, taken the Dharma back to China, in fact, in simplified characters. The lectures that Master Hua gave in Chinese have been edited and published beautifully by the Zongjiao Wenhua Chubanshe in Beijing for distribution inside of China. And they are very popular in China. So these are explanations that he gave in America that have now been carried back to China, where Master Hua is extremely welcome by the Buddhists of China. Shifu's his sutras, his explanations, they're called qianshi, ordinary explanations. They're called simple explanations of the Buddhist teachings. They are very popular in China. So this is this idea of speaking Dharma. Shifu would lecture Dharma on buses, on trains, on airplanes. For anyone who would listen, he lectured under trees, in playgrounds, in college classrooms. They were all suitable places for people to listen to principle. And I wanted to share a little bit of this because a few years back, 5 years back, I was invited to Hangzhou, to Lingyan Monastery, to take part in training for Chinese monks and nuns who wanted to learn to speak Dharma outside of China. So we say for Westerners, or in English, or other languages, Spanish, or Polish, whatever it might be, German. I was, with a lot of support and a lot of help, able to collect the notes that I made and the material that I prepared to share with the Chinese monks and nuns, and now we've got it ready to edit and publish. It's in a shape where it might, with all, with the help of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Dharma protectors, if nothing goes wrong, we may have, notice how I'm hedging my bets, right? I don't want to say for sure. I'm saying, with all goes well, we hope to have this material available for people who want to learn how to speak Dharma. So today, with the Sutra Samantabhadra giving us the Fa Ju, the Dharma phrases, 10 kinds of Dharma phrases, I wanted to share. Let's see, here it is right here. Share my screen. I learned how to do that. Dharma speaking textbook. Look at what is involved. So we want to, why do we speak Dharma in the present age? How can that help us in cultivating? Experiences in speaking Dharma, wrong views about speaking Dharma, and then letting the Buddha's voice be heard in the world. So when the Buddha's voice is heard in China, it comes in code that has been, there we go. These phrases get classified into 4-character phrases, 四字成语. So we need to decode it so people understand. You have to speak Dharma expediently. We have to translate it into languages they understand. Sutras are a magnet. We're like iron filings drawn to it. Disasters disappear. We tell stories about people who made vows. Old Lao Jishi Li Bingnan in Taiwan was one of those elders who spoke Dharma constantly until his very last breath. Teach, how do you prepare? Well, are you going to do a Dharma talk? Or are you going to lecture on a text? How do you know which text to lecture on? So, what do you do when you decide you're going to speak? Well, you request Dharma. We've got a lecture, a ritual here that you can pick up if you care to, based on Samantabhadra's vows. How do you develop your topic? You give a thesis, you develop it, you give the opposite, and then you bring them together. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. How do you take what is traditional and bring it forward to the times so that people are interested? Innovation and tradition. Do you dedicate merit at the end? Yes, you do. Okay, an example of how that works. Okay, let's prepare to speak Dharma. Where are you going? Where's your venue? What languages do you need? One only, if you have translators for you, the way I'm blessed to have. I can speak English, and it's translated into Chinese or Vietnamese. How about Spanish? How about, translated into French for Quebecois? Know your audience. Who are you talking to elders? Are you talking to college students? Are you talking to children? You need to know. Different material for different audiences, different generations, different approach. How to be really patient. Okay, if you're speaking for Westerners, if you're speaking for Europeans, you need to understand their perspectives. Don't talk about Pure Land if you're talking to Zen meditators. If you're talking to Theravada people, Vipassana people, Pure Land, which is the favorite topic in Asia, not going to connect, not ready yet. Different sets of beliefs. Don't talk about psychic powers, not a popular topic in the West. Virtue and mindfulness, however, are number one. Teaching filiality, reconnecting with parents. Buddhism and talking about Buddha Dharma to people who understand God and the Bible. You better be aware of those dynamics. Is the Buddha a god? How is he different? If the answer is no. What about those images on the altar? The 10 Commandments say no, right? So that's an issue. You better be clear on that. So here's a checklist of decisions to make. How long are you going to lecture? You take a break? Do you sit on chairs? Do you sit on cushions? Are elders there? You better give them headphones. What to do with mobile phones? Do you pass out sutra texts or do you use a projector on a screen? Save paper, but can everybody see it? How about a microphone? Do you know how to speak into a mic? Mics bring their own problems, but if people in the back can't hear, you have to use a microphone. What about humor? Do you laugh? Can you show your teeth? Can you tell jokes? Maybe not. If you're speaking in Singapore and Malaysia, a little more structure is good. If you're speaking in California, you can have fun. Nobody thinks badly about it. When does Dharma talk become entertainment? You better know the difference and don't be careless. How much humor loses the dignity of the Dharma? Okay, 莫名其妙的规矩, strange and unreliable regulations that many people bring forward as necessary, only cultural accretion, not essential. You better know them so you can avoid them. Okay, many unofficial rules, examine them, pure superstition. For example, if you say a word wrong, the Buddha is going to send you to the hells. Believe me, it's out there, people believe it, they They're afraid that Buddha Dharma has a chance to fall into hell. Oh, okay. That rule came from someone who didn't want to speak Dharma, right? Don't touch the sutra. Don't put the sutra down. If your incense ash falls outside the censer, your family's going to split up, right? Oh my, you'd be amazed. Okay, what about expedient means to hold people's interest, such as music? Our attention span is shrinking. Indeed. Can you go 90 minutes? Good question. Storytelling. Better get good at it. Can we use puppets? Can we speak in the round? Okay, another topic here. The logistics of giving a good talk. Do you break the ice with a joke? How about when you sit? When you take your seat? Do you meditate before the talk to get material? Do you use your hands to make points? Do you touch water glasses or tea glasses? Do you make eye contact? Do you stare at people? Not. How about your breath? How about your voice? How about pronunciation or regional dialect? Mark Twain said, tell him you're going to tell him, and then tell him you told him. That's the only way to communicate. I say it 3 times, right? Avoiding cliches. Watching whether you say or you know, or right. The master, that skill. You want to hear yourself, edit your speaking skills. How to use the voice. Do you speak quietly? Do you draw people in with drama? Do you raise to a conclusion, raise your voice, or do you speak in a monotone, right? So, nerves and stage fright. Do you invoke Sarasvati, the goddess of eloquence? Breathing to control nervousness. Do you understand that lecturing is a chance to bring the Buddha's wisdom alive in the world? Sacred performance. Don't have a special style, etc. The Buddha had no style. Then, all about technology. How Master Hua used technological tools, spreading the Dharma. At the time, it was reel-to-reel tape recorders and mimeograph machines. Now, my goodness, live streaming. Technology has pluses and minuses. The ancient technology of the Dharma. Can speaking Dharma preserve virtue for the world in the future, etc. Then a big question, Q&A, questions and answers. The hardest part of speaking Dharma is responding in real time to people's questions. That takes skill. How not to say too much. How to know when people are deliberately trying to trip you up, giving loaded questions, etc. That does happen. Etc. And down to my own story of having Master Hua, the method that I was given along with Marty Verhoeven, former Hung Chao. We put this in an appendix because it's kind of scary and I don't recommend it for everybody. Master, we were invited after 3 Steps, 1 Bow pilgrimage was over. We were invited to go down to Los Angeles, to Gold Wheel, the brand new monastery that opened up just as we began our pilgrimage. We were invited by the lay people to leave City of 10,000 Buddhas and go to LA and speak and explain the Avatamsaka Sutra. So Master Hua said, well, do you want to go? And we said, I still wasn't talking, but we communicated we would love to go, Shifu. And so he said, okay, now here's what you do. He said, I want you to speak, I'll give you my method. This is my technique. He says, I recommend it. He says, when you go up on the stage, you're going to speak for 90 minutes. He said, do not carry any single piece of paper up there. No notes, no notebooks, no cribs written on the palm of your hand, He said, I want you to meditate during the day, get your samadhi power there, preview the text and know what's coming, but speak from inspiration. The audience's willingness to listen, the sutras, wisdom on the page, and your own samadhi. Those are the three things which make a lively sutra lecture. He says anything that you prepare is leftover food. Chao leng fan, that's just leftovers out of the refrigerator. Nobody wants to hear that. He says, speak to the moment, speak to the Dharma. And he said, that will be lively. And he says, if you put your palms together beforehand and ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for their blessing, and if you are sincere and you have done your homework and meditated, when the time comes, he said, it'll be like a lotus flower, a lily pond leaf rising up to catch your foot. You won't fall in the water. And you take one more step, and that lily pond leaf will rise up, catch your foot, and you'll walk across the lotus pond all the way to Mount Sumeru. And so we are like, Shifu, that's terrifying. What do you mean no papers on them? Well, how come in 90 minutes? If I don't talk, there's no sound in the room. They're all waiting for me. Shifu, how come? Stage fright, major stage fright. How terrifying to be up there with no material except the sutra and your own samadhi. And he said, not easy, is it? That's my method. And I pass it on to you. If you want to follow me, he said, your choice. And so we're like, okay, sure. So we tried it, sure enough, and to this day, there's no piece of paper here. So it took real faith to risk falling flat on your face. Imagine if 20 minutes in. Well, you've only got 60 minutes left, So it's like, oh no. So, so that was the method. And I say we put that in the appendix of my Dharma speaking book. Not that I'm going to ask anybody to pick up on that, because it's pretty scary if you don't have faith in that method, if you don't have Shifu's energy behind you, pretty scary. So anyway, that's hearing about Samantabhadra say these fa ju, the 10 Dharma phrases that he's going to explain how the Buddha, how to approach the charging lion samadhi. Ooh, oh boy. So there we are. Next week, we get to hear the reprise in verse form of Samantabhadra's teaching, and then onward into the preparation for the Buddha's Dharma lessons. Okay, so I believe because Jin Chuan and Jin Wei Shi are at the Sudana Center retreat along with Dharma Master Heng Chi, Doug Powers, and Marty Verhoeven, I think they are not going to give us any news about Berkeley Monastery, but I will share a wonderful story that came to us from Good Karma Music on dharmaradio.org. Phil in Canada fell off his bike, cut his arms, cut his hands and hip, a mess of blood and gravel. But a kind person came up to him and gave him first aid for his wounds, and then another one helped him get home. He says, I was humbled and inspired by their heartfelt generosity of spirit. So there he was in the emergency room at the hospital, and he was happy, he was patient and grateful for the two people who helped him after he fell off his bike. So there in the waiting room in the hospital was a tired mom with an injured child. And Phil said, I passed on the kindness by listening and caring and being attentive, passed on the blessing. That is indeed a good deed. So thank you, Phil, and I hope you got music that you can enjoy from dharmaradio.org. We are going to dedicate our merit. It's raining here in Queenston. Please do make a wish, send off the goodness of coming together in the light of the Buddha and the three jewels. Send it off as far as you can to whomever you would like to bring light to. one hand radiant with mine. Share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. We can bow to the Buddhas together. Hold on here. All right. First bow. Second bow. And third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, see you all next week. I'll meet you full. Bye now.